On today's episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast with Flip and Steele, it's trade deadline day, baby, but we still have 4 games to break down from a DFS and betting perspective. But stay tuned for later in the day for the trade deadline live reaction show.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome to today's show, Monday's episode. It is trade deadline day, and I want to let you all know that today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Thank you guys so much for making us your first listen every single day. Steele and I really appreciate it. You know where you can find us across all platforms. You find your favorite and hottest content. Steele, my brother, it's a big day in the NHL world. Make sure you all stay tuned for later in today. Steele and I will be going live on our YouTube feed, making all the reactions, all the breakdowns of today. So make sure you stay tuned and check that out as well. On today's show, we're doing another DFS and Big Time Bets special. Hey, there's still bills to be paid. There's still money to be made, Steele. And there's some good games on Trade Deadline Monday. I'm a little bit excited. I've done some research. I'm excited to hear what you have to say. And, of course, still pumped up for later in today where you and I will be going live on YouTube.
Yeah, a lot of the big trades happened over the weekend. So we'll dive a little bit, deeper into those trades and trades that happened on Trade Deadline Day later in the day at 3:30 Eastern time for our live trade deadline reaction show. Let's talk about the DFS selections and big time bets for now. We'll get into the trades later. 4 games on the schedule, and I'm looking at those 2 first games of the night. The first one being the Minnesota Wild versus the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yep.
The Vegas Golden Knights being on the road. I am taking the Minnesota Wild for my DFS selections. Vegas doesn't play well against Minnesota. One of the very few teams in the NHL that Vegas doesn't play well against. They're 4-7 on the road all time against the Minnesota Wild and 11-14 all-time record against Minnesota. So they don't play well against Minnesota, especially on the road. Vegas has won two in a row, but they're 4-6 in their last 10. They haven't done a really good job since they've lost Mark Stone and got Jack Eichel into the lineup. They have played well, but they're just not finding ways to win the games. And that's what's really scary, especially going up against a team that they don't play well against. So I'm taking some of their big guys, Kirill Kaprizov and Matt Zuccarello. I'm also looking down to that fourth line to a couple guys that they just added. Tyson Jost, he's played well in the first couple of games. He hasn't gotten on the scoreboard, but that is a cheap option that you can place as well into your DFS selections. I think he's played well in the first couple of games, but especially targeting Kirill Kaprizov and Matt Zuccarello, those guys are going to be above $6,000, maybe even $6,500.
Look, I really like your mentioning of Tyson Jost because I think that was a sneaky little addition from the Wild that obviously has fallen under the radar with all the bigger deals that have happened now since that move. But I think that you can really find some value down that lineup for sure. And I just want to point this out in terms of a good spot for the Minnesota Wild. This Vegas Golden Knights team is banged up. You mentioned Stone, Pacioretty, McNabb, Martinez, Riley Smith, Robin Leonard, number 1 goaltender. I also read that Jack Eichel might be dealing with an ailment day to day. I don't think it's serious, but he might be out tonight as well. This is a really good spot for the Wild. I have Kaprizov as one of my bets. I think this kid deserves a lot more credit. He is going to be a superstar for many years in this league. So good this season, and I'll talk about him in a bit, Steele. I want to hear what else you have, but I think this is a very, very good spot for the Minnesota Wild, so you got to hit those guys. And, I don't think you can go wrong with really any of their forwards tonight.
Yeah, well, I also have a Kirill Kaprizov bet as well. We'll get into that later, but look at the way the guy's playing. He's top 5 in scoring. He's top 5. He's top 10 in goals this season. He's been absolutely incredible. A lot of people were reacting very sour when he got that contract from the Minnesota Wild. Like a lot of players around the league, like, oh, he doesn't deserve $9 million on average. Like the contract was huge, but look at the way he's playing right now. He's a superstar in this league, and Minnesota Wild have locked up a really, really talented player. So we'll get into the big time bets later, but let's jump over to the second game that I'm looking at. It's the Boston Bruins versus the Montreal Canadiens. They've made a couple moves so far over the weekend, getting Hampus Lindholm from the Anaheim Ducks, but we'll dive into that later at the trade deadline show.
Thank you.
I like this matchup between the Bruins and the Canadiens, Flip. I know there are a couple more games on Monday, but everything lining up for the Bruins, and they've played really well, even though they've had a couple of injuries the last couple of weeks. I'm going with some guys, some big guys, as well as some depth guys. Charlie McAvoy, Charlie Coyle, Craig Smith, and Brad Marchand. Those four guys have been their best players over the last week and a half. And especially Charlie Coyle and Craig Smith playing on the third line. Those are going to be some very cheap options. So you can save your money for a top tier goalie, save your money for a top tier defenseman like Charlie McAvoy. So I'm taking four guys from the Boston Bruins matchup. And even though Montreal's played really well since Martin St. Louis has taken over, I don't like the matchup for the Canadiens going up against the big bad Bruins.
There's a few different things to kind of take a look at in this game, because you mentioned the injuries. So Patrice Bergeron, I think, is going to be out for this game. So those other guys on Boston are going to have to step up. So maybe that's an angle to be factored in here for a game that, we keep talking about these races tightening up. We know Montreal's season is, despite them playing really well, credit due to Marty St. Louis and the new staff that he's brought in there. Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki are playing amazing together. The Montreal Canadiens are putting up points, but they're also getting scored on a ton. Sam Montembeault, has been playing too much. Jake Allen is back, but he hasn't been great. So I think, everything that you're saying, I don't know where this game goes in like the prediction of who wins, but I think that this is going to be a high scoring game. And I think you can't ignore the Boston Bruins quality, especially going up against the rival. That's a big rivalry, Montreal and Boston. So I think that's an exciting game to watch any way you slice it. If you don't mind me jumping in with the team that I'm looking at, Steele, again, tease for my picks, the Nashville Predators have been red hot. We know they've also been scoring a ton of goals. The last 6 games, they've scored 4 or more. They hung a 6th spot on the Leafs. I know the Leafs have been struggling, but they really flexed their offensive muscle Saturday night. And some of those guys, like that top line, Steele, you cannot ignore how good they've been. Matt Duchene, Johansson, Philip Forsberg. That's an underrated top line. Speaking of which, Kirill Kaprizov, Matt Zuccarello, Ryan Hartman, also underrated. So I think you're going to pay the premium, but maybe not as much because they're not as big names. So I'm also looking at the Nashville Predators as a really good team to target DFS-wise Monday night.
Yeah, and we'll also see what happens with Philip Forsberg heading into the trade deadline, because Nashville, his name's been thrown out there a couple over the last little while. I know Nashville is trying to get a deal done with him. It would be terrible for the Predators organization to lose a guy like Philip Forsberg. Just an absolute incredible career he's had with Nashville since they acquired him. But we'll see what happens with Nashville. But I do like the pick as well. I was looking towards that game. I was looking towards that game for the Nashville Predators against the Anaheim Ducks. I did stay away from that because you and I were talking about the Ducks a couple of episodes ago. The Ducks were on a long road trip. They were at the tail end. Now they're back home. So they do play a lot better at home. And, Nashville being on the road, we'll see what happens. But again, Nashville has been playing really good. But I'm going to stick with the two matchups I had for the Boston Bruins and the Minnesota Wild. Do you have a couple of more DFS selections, or?
I do not, sir. I'm going. I like Minnesota. I like the Nashville Predators. Those are the two, you mentioned it as well. That's where I'm headed, because I think not only is it a good spot for the team overall, but I expect, some good offensive output from both teams tonight.
Yeah, all 4 games of the matchup. You can't also forget about the Edmonton Oilers taking on the Colorado Avalanche. That was also another game that I looked at. Well, it's the last game on the schedule, but I looked at it for one of my DFS selections. And of course, you can go with Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar. Even you can go to the Edmonton side, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl. I just thought, I thought the other 3 matchups, especially, the other 3 matchups were definitely the ones that I were considering. And of course, I took the Boston Bruins and Minnesota Wild for DFS selections. We'll get into big time bets very, very soon.
That's right. That's right. We will get into big time bets very soon. That's where we pay the bills. Thank you for tuning in again and making us your first listen every single day. We appreciate the love. Make sure you hammer that subscribe button, smash the follow button, show us some love, drop a rating. We appreciate it. I want to tell you guys about a new product that we're loving around here right now, Athletic Greens. I use it every single day. It helps me stay energized and healthy. Steele's going to the gym. He's feeling it. What is this stuff? 1 scoop of delicious Athletic Greens. You're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, and probiotics to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and even helps you age with grace. All the things. I use it before and after the gym, just like Steele, and it is great. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. Just 1 scoop with water every single day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. Make it easy. Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do, visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership of your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Thank you guys so much for making us your first listen every single day. Like I said, we really do appreciate it. Thank you for riding with us. This is episode number 38. You know where to find us every single day, but make sure you tune in later today, March 21st at 3:30 Eastern Time. Steele and I will be doing a live trade deadline reaction show to get you caught up on all the on-ice fantasy and betting analysis that you need. Make sure you catch that later today. We will be live and showing what we do best. Steele, speaking of which, what we do best, big time bets. We finished the week on a high note.
Yeah.
Lock of the Nights are coming back in. It was a little bit of a rough patch for me last week, but we're back in the win column. I'm feeling it, and I want to hear what you're feeling. Hit me with your first pick. Monday night, 4 games, but I have 4 picks ready to go.
Oh, okay. Let's get
Yes,
it.
sir.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty much starting off easy. Everyone should know me at this point in time that I usually correlate my DFS selections with my big time bets, and that's exactly what I've done again. I'm taking the Bruins on the money line versus the Montreal Canadiens. I know it's not a lot of money to be made because they are the favorite heading into this game, but again, the Montreal Canadiens have been a lot better since Martin St. Louis has taken over. I don't feel comfortable enough taking the Boston Bruins on the puck line. So I'm just going to stay with the money line here. Play a little easy, play a little simple to start off the new week. Trade deadline day. Taking the Bruins on the money line for my first pick.
Yeah, this is one of those games, Steele, that like I'm not going to disagree with you at all because I watched some of the Montreal games Saturday. Like I said, Caulfield and Suzuki are clicking. The future, those 2 pieces for the Montreal Canadiens. If Marty St. Louis continues to build, the Habs will be back there sooner than later, but I don't think they're there yet. We also know they've just traded Ben Sherratt. We know the blue line's a little shaky. We know the goaltending's been shaky. The Boston Bruins, again, make another big trade deadline addition. We called it. We knew they were going to do something. They still might add another piece. We don't know. Stay tuned. But they're going for it, and they have playoff aspirations. We know that these are the teams you got to go with in these situations, right? Boston needs these 2 points badly. I expect it to be a close game, but I like your pick. What else you got?
For my second pick, again, I'm going with the Minnesota Wild on the money line versus the Vegas Golden Knights. I can't remember. I forgot to write down the exact odd of this game.
I got him at minus 155 on the money line.
All right, perfect. Minnesota Wild minus 155 on the money line. They are playing at home. That's probably why, as well as Vegas is dealing with a ton of injuries.
Exactly.
Even when Vegas is healthy, they just don't play well against Minnesota. So now that they're struggling with all of the injuries to some of their star players, their starting goaltender as well. I don't like the situation for Vegas. I'm taking the Minnesota Wild on the money line.
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to jump right into it. I'm taking the exact same thing. Laurent Brossoit, who's expected to be in net, has not been good. I think he's 1-4 in his last 5, and he's looked really shaky. His save percentage is under 900. That is never a good thing, ever, for a goaltender. Also, Minnie is a great home team. We know this. Year in, year out, Minnie is a tough building to go in and play. 19-7-1 this year, the Wild at home. A very, very good home team. Oh, guess what? Vegas? 5 losses in a row on the road. Do not play good away from the strip. Give me the Vegas Golden Knights on the money line, minus 155, but we already also talked about Kirill Kaprizov. I'm going right back
Did
to
you
the
say
hot
Vegas
hand.
Golden Knights?
Sorry. My bad.
Okay.
Minnesota Wild on the money line at home. Sorry, I'm reading too many things here. Let's not get. I just talked up the Wild for 5 minutes, but I'm taking the Knights. No. Minnesota Wild on the money line, minus 155. My bad. Thank you for checking me. And Kirill Kaprizov, anytime goal scorer. Look, you mentioned it, Steele. He's sitting at the top of the league in a bunch of categories. 76 points, 4 goals in his last 5 games, and 32 on the season. We mentioned that top line chemistry with Zuccarello and Hartman. I love it all. I love the home situation. I love a shaky situation for the goalies in Vegas. Give me the little Minnesota double dip. No triple dip, but a double dip.
All right, we're both taking the Minnesota Wild on the money line against the Vegas Golden Knights. They don't play well on the road, and Minnesota is a very underrated home team. So both of us taking Wild on the money line.
Thank you.
Flip and I are going to get to our lock of the nights very, very soon. But real quick, I got to mention our sponsors, BetOnline.net. It's that time of year again. College basketball's March Madness tournament is finally upon us. From all the latest odds, contests, and player props, BetOnline.net is the number one source for all of your sports betting needs and info. It's not just basketball, though. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and actions. BetOnline, where the game starts. Also got to mention this amazing sponsor and amazing product, Built Bars. They are covered in 100% real chocolate. I love me some chocolate every single day of the week. And the fact that it's healthy just makes it even better. It contains 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and 17 grams of protein. There's just so many different flavors to choose from. Coconut almond, peanut butter brownie, raspberry, cookies and cream, my favorite, salted caramel, mint brownie, and many more. In fact, Built Bar comes out with limited time flavors every single week. So you got to go check out built.com often to see what's new. For this week, ruby chocolate, lemon dip cheesecake, and caramel almond delight. Absolutely delicious. You don't want to miss out on these limited time offers. So go to built.com and use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. I'll say it one more time. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. Thank you so much for tuning into the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, making it your first listen every day. Make sure you tune for 3:30 Eastern Time for our live trade deadline reaction show with Flip Livingstone and Steele Roden, myself. We're going to get all of the trade deadline action going later today, so make sure you tune in for 3:30 Eastern Time for the live trade deadline reaction show. Flip, let's quickly get into our locks of the night. You have one more. You have 2 more picks or one more pick?
2 more picks, including the lock of the night. If you'd like,
All
you
right,
can start and I'll
beautiful.
finish, or I can start, you finish. I'm good either way.
Say your last pick, the one that's not your lock.
I have gone to the double dip for my first 2 picks, and I'm doing it again for my second 2.
Okay.
And we mentioned the Nashville Predators. They have played a lot better the last couple of weeks. And the Anaheim Ducks, we talked about it, and I mentioned it at the start of last week that I didn't like how they were playing, bad spots. They've now lost, what is it here? Is it 5 in a row, 4 in a row? Anyway.
Yeah, they've slipped down the standings.
They're slipping, and Nashville is 9-14 in their last 13 against the Ducks. And I just wanted to point out that while the Nashville Predators have been better, they've also beat in their last 8 games. They are 6-2, winning against the Wild, the Pens, the Leafs, and the Stars. So they're not exactly beating some slouch teams. They are feeling it. And a big reason why is that top line. And a big reason why that top line is a resurgent Matt Duchene, who was written off by about everyone, including this guy right here. And this dude is the comeback player of the year, in my opinion. And he has been nasty. He looks like the Matt Duchene of old and clicking on that top line. But I also need to point out 9-game point streak. Red hot. So I'll say this. Nashville Predators, money line minus 157. Not my lock of the night. I will finish with that.
Hey, you can't go wrong with Matt Duchene. He is the bounce back player of the year. You did mention a Kirill Kaprizov anytime goal. My lock of the night is a Kirill Kaprizov anytime assist.
Hey.
So I'm not going with the goal scorer. I'm going with the assist. I think he's a very, very underrated playmaker, the best player for the Minnesota Wild. That is my lock of the night. Kirill Kaprizov, anytime assist.
I love it. I think it's one of those situations, Steele, that if you win, I'm probably going to win. He has a big night. I could see it being a goal and 2 assists, 2 goals, 1 assist. Who knows? You know, I like how we're doing this here. I'm going Wild, Kaprizov, Predators, and Matt Duchene. Matt Duchene, anytime assist is my lock of the night. His 9-game point streak that he's currently on, Steele, features 9 goals and 8 assists for 17 points. He is playing lights out right now. This Anaheim Ducks team is letting in a lot of goals, and it feels like with these pieces being moved out, right? Josh Manson, Lindholm, they're mentioning Raquel's up next. Could have happened while we're recording this show. Who knows? Those are big veteran pieces to this team that is signifying that it's time to turn the page. It's time to retool around Trevor Zegras and Jamie Drysdale. And I think they can feel that, you know, they're really slipping out here. So I like this angle for the Preds. I like this angle for Duchene and that top line to have another big night. So give me Matt Duchene anytime assist for my lock of the night, pal.
Yeah, you could probably also put a anytime goal from Philip Forsberg if he isn't traded before the trade deadline by the Nashville Predators, because that top line for the Predators have been absolutely incredible. Matt Duchene, Philip Forsberg, and I'm blanking on the other guy now.
Ryan Johansson. You're good.
Ryan Johansson. There we go. I thought he was centering the second line, but it's okay.
It's okay. I almost bet on the Vegas Golden Knights earlier. You had me there, so we're good.
Anyway, yeah, that top line, absolutely ridiculous. So you could probably go with Matt Duchene or Philip Forsberg if he isn't traded before the deadline.
Yes, sir.
But we'll keep an eye out for the trades going in. We'll get all the we'll analyze all of the trades, dig a little deeper for the trade deadline show. Make sure you lock the lock of the night's picks in for tonight. Pencil it in, lock it in, put your money down. That's where all the money's made. Flip and I have been absolutely rolling. So hopefully we start the new week off strong. Thank you for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every day. If you want more gambling advice on what you should pick, but for not just hockey, make sure your second listen is Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, it's hosted by your boy Q with insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available on all podcast platforms, just like this podcast right here. So please make sure you subscribe, follow the podcast, and once you do, you'll get the latest episodes of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast as soon as they're available each and every day, Monday to Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. So you got to subscribe to make sure you're getting the latest episodes. And we appreciate all the love and support out there. So thank you for that. Thank you again for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Make sure you're tuning out for our episode, our live trade deadline reaction show later today. Have a great day. Good luck with all your bets. And we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.